Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Amplified Nevada Native Youth. My name is Avery Wyatt, and I'm glad to be your host for this evening, or actually one of your co-hosts. And welcome back to all of our guests that keep coming back, and also welcome to all our new viewers out there. We're excited to have you, and we have a cool show for you this evening. And so, welcome to another installment of the Discovering Your Pathway series, which is a 2-week installment that we've been doing so far, which basically highlights the transfer students and especially native transfer students because we feel like they have unique experiences that aren't often heard and they're oftentimes forgot about too. So, we think it's important to help out our transfer students and especially our native transfer students. And so, check out last week's episode as we featured Taylor Baker and Jarrett Work, who are transfer students who have a lot of experience transferring. And they brought really good stories with them to the show. And they also brought some good tips for students too. So if you are looking for any tips for transfer students, or if you are yourself are a transfer student, tune into that episode. And I guarantee you're going to take something from that. And before we hop into this week's episode, so next week, we are going to be having a financial workshop with everybody. So the Nevada Money Mentors are actually going to be partnering with us, and they're going to be bringing in a person to help us with budgeting, savings, and also talk a little bit about debt. And I know it's a presentation designed for students, but at the same time, I feel like myself and I think we all need a little bit of financial exercises to refresh our minds and also just help us out for the future. So don't forget to tune in next week, Thursday at 5 p.m. And now we'll dive into this week's episode. So for this week, we have Kari Emm from the University of Nevada. But before we also get there, I'd like to introduce my co-host. So Ferdina, welcome back, and we're excited to have you for another week.
Yay, welcome. We're excited to have Miss Kari Emm, soon to be Dr. Kari Emm. Yeah, Avery, last week was a great show, not only for the transfer process, but they also highlighted, their experiences as Native students. So good job. Can't wait to go back and rewatch that episode. All right, I'm Ferdina Dry Romero with the Nevada Department of Education, and I'm excited to be here again tonight and co-host with Avery and listen to what Kari Emm says. Back to you, Avery.
Cool, thanks, Dina. And I'm glad to have you everyone on tonight. And now we'll introduce our guest for this evening. So we have Kari Emm. So Kari Emm is the Director of Transfer Admissions and Programming at the University of Nevada. And she's also from the Yerington Paiute tribe. So Kari, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the work you do.
So I'm director of transfer admissions for the University of Nevada, Reno. I've been in my position. I've been at the university for almost 15 years. 2 of those years were in the Center for Student Cultural Diversity, working with American Indian students and outreach and retention. So I've been at the university quite a long time. I also, just to kind of give you a background, I am a transfer student. I actually went to University of Nevada, Reno, and decided that I really wanted to play basketball and softball, so I transferred out to Southwestern Oregon Community College. There, I received my AA degree, and I transferred back to University of Nevada, Reno. Had quite a process when I transferred back, so I really understand some of the things that transfer students go through. I earned my political science degree with a minor in business administration at the university. I went on to get a master's in organizational management, and now I am in the PhD program at the University of Nevada in equity and diversity in higher education. And hopefully I'll be graduating next spring, or hopefully next winter. I'll get done in February of this year, or of next year. So hopefully I'll make it through all this stuff I have to do for the PhD. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm really excited to talk about even some of my research that I'm doing. My dissertation is going to be on American Indian transfer students and their first year experiences at a 4-year university.
Cool. Yeah, we're really proud of you that you're going to be finished with this after it's probably been a very long time. I know it's really hard work to be able to get your doctorate. So yeah, we appreciate you, especially the work you do for transfer students too. Because like we said earlier, they are often a forgotten minority at colleges. So yeah, thank you. And
Thank
now
you.
we understand that. Yeah,
Very proud of
yeah.
you, Kari.
Mhm.
Very proud.
Need all of it. Give it all to me. Motivation, right?
And yep, and then we understand that you have a presentation for us tonight. So I'll just let you take it away. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat, and we'll get them answered at the end of the show. So tune in, everybody, and thanks for watching again. Now we'll get into the presentation.
So what I would like to discuss with you all tonight is how to be successful as a transfer student. It's never going to always go perfectly, but there are some key tips that I think especially American Indian students need to be aware of in order for their transition to become a little bit less of a burden. So let's start with the first slide, Avery. So what I would like to talk about is first my story as a transfer student, and also about my family, of how I've came to where I came, because I always think that's really a good place to start for other students to maybe mirror or to relate to. Why I feel passionate about my Indigenous research is mostly because of my family's story. I'm going to give you some data on American Indian students that might seem a little dreadful, but I think we need to know the data on American Indian students in higher education and how we need to improve those numbers. And then I'm gonna help with a transfer guide for success. So give you some key tips on making sure that your transfer is as seamless as possible. And then I have a very my own closing thoughts on what I think transfer students should take with them at the end of this presentation. So my story starts with my grandfather and grandmother, Warm and Rose Emm. My grandfather is a member of the Yerington Paiute tribe. He was taken to the Stewart Indian School when he was 6 years old. He ran away from the Stewart Indian School and went back and to his own people. At that time, he did not know his language and was somewhat not shunned by his own people, but he just wasn't what was considered American Indian. And so he kind of lost his way for a little bit until a couple took him in Fallon and taught him about education and about sports and how this could really impact his life and change the trajectory of his life. During that time, he met my grandmother, Rose. Both have passed on recently, but he did change our thought process about college. And can you go to the next one? It then went into my own immediate family. I have two other sisters and my father and mother, and I think they've also really encouraged us to go to college and to do more with our life. I remember telling my mother that I would be okay selling fireworks in Schurz. And she says that, that's great. I think it's great, but I think you need to experience college as well. And so she filled out my college application for me and I was admitted. And with that said, now I'm in my PhD program. So who knew my mother knew better than I even knew myself. From there, we have one grandchild of the family who is my son, Cooper. And Cooper is kind of my inspiration for everything I do now. He's one that has changed my way of thinking, that it's not only about me, but it's about him, about the future of our tribe, and about the future of where he's going to be when he's my age. So those are the things that I think really made us have a going college culture. And it starts with one person in your family. And then it can trigger your whole family into becoming where education is something that it's not if you're going to college, but it's when you go to college. And so that from a little age. Even Cooper right now, we talk about college. His dad wants him to be an engineer. I tell him he could be anything he wants in life. But so those are things that I think as small children, we need to talk to our kids about. when they start, even at 3 years old. Next slide. So American Indian students, like I said, let's give you some data. So American Indian students only account for about 1% of the total enrollment in higher education. You know, that's very low. When enrolled, 44.9 of them decide to attend a public 2-year institution. So a lot of our students do initially attend a community college, a tribal college, in order to transition into a 4-year university. American Indian students enroll in post-secondary institutions lower than any other ethnic group, and have a 43% persistence rate when doing so. And that word persistence means staying in school, staying in college. We have a lot of students who may transition into the university, but for some reasons, they decide to drop out. And so that persistence rate is only about 43%. American Indian students have a graduation rate of 40%. So only 40% of us actually obtain that degree, compared to 57% of all other ethnicities. And so these are key facts that I think we need to keep in mind as you look at American Indian students in higher education, whether you be a first-year freshman or a transfer student. So what are some of the challenges? The first one is college preparation. Growing up in Schurz and now hearing some of the issues that they're still having in Schurz, like internet access, books, mentors, teachers' aides, American Indian teachers, being able to help students, being able to provide AP courses, or being able to provide extra tutoring for students. This is all the challenges that American Indian students go through. Once they get to college, post-secondary support, so having the support of advisors, tutors, financial aid, and that social component for American Indian students is also a challenge they go through. And then the family and tribal community is sometimes left out of the equation when students attend a college or university, instead of embracing them. And that really, if you know anything about our tribal communities, and like I said before with my family, is that it's really necessary for your family to be embedded in your education. And without that, it makes it even harder for you to be able to achieve in getting that degree. And then cultural expression. I constantly feel like I'm even doing this right now, is that you're living in two realities. You're living in a reality where you want to embrace your tribal communities and the culture and the language. But then you also live in another Eurocentric college system where you have to abide by their culture, by their languages, by their teachings. And so a lot of students have to be able to maneuver between those two realities. And it becomes difficult. It becomes very challenging, and it becomes tiring. And then lastly, financial challenges. Native Americans are over 2 times more likely to live in poverty than the general population. And this can really affect students. I mean, if you cannot afford or lose your financial aid because you have a bad semester, it's really hard to go back to school in order to achieve that degree. Next slide. So how do students counteract these challenges, or how can they? Like I said, is that you can live in two worlds. It gets tiring, but you can live in one that holds on to your culture and your tribal community, and the other you assimilate to a Eurocentric education. Doesn't make it right, no, but as you navigate through your education, this is one way that students do it. They attend tribal colleges or universities. A lot of our students go on to attend a tribal college and university because they do feel more supported. They also feel like they have access to their free expression. And then participate in programs, college preparation programs. So with the university, we have Upward Bound or Dean's Future Scholars. A lot of students, in order to maneuver through being able to get to college, they attend these early outreach programs. And this is really helpful for students. So what should transfer students, what is a guide for success? is I think a lot of our American Indian students, and let me tell you, even in my PhD program, this has been a hard concept, is learn to ask for help. There's no such thing as too many questions. And it's so confusing sometimes, especially when you're dealing with financial aid or with course selection, is being able to know and have the confidence to ask the questions over and over again if you don't understand, or ask different people. Find a transfer center advisor at your current community colleges. So most two-year colleges do have a transfer center or an academic advisor that helps students in transitioning into their next step. If you're at, it's funny because the next one, I get a lot of, I don't get a lot, but I get some students that come to me and say, hey, I've decided to go back to my community college. Can you help me do that? And it's like, well, my job is to bring you into the university, not to allow you to leave. But, you know, at the university, there are people like me, a transfer specialist, that can get you going in the process of transferring. So the universities also have a transfer position or a transfer department, but most of the time it's to bring students into the university. It's not to help them transfer out. Another thing is keep syllabi for all courses that you take at your community college. So we've had a couple instances where we have had tribal college TCU students try to transfer into the university, and much of their coursework comes in as electives. And it's just because we don't get many. And this is true for any other college, you know, within the nation. And so if you have a syllabus of what you studied, what tests you took, this does help in getting course equivalencies or getting them approved for your degree. So it's really important to keep those syllabi. A lot of universities and colleges now have them online. So you can just go online and print it off, and then you're able to submit it to me or to your academic advisor, and being able to get those courses to come in a little bit nicer for you. You know, and electives are fine, but you can only have so many electives, and it doesn't really help you in achieving that degree. So it's really good if you can get a direct major requirement out of the way. Use a transfer agreement. So a lot of community colleges and even TCUs have transfer agreements with the university. And what I mean by transfer agreements is that it's a roadmap for you. It tells you what classes you take at the community college that will transfer over for your degree at the four-year university. We have major to major transfer agreements with our Nevada system of higher education. We also have it with some of our California community colleges. And this is very useful for students because it's really hard to remember all the courses that you need to take in order to make sure that they transfer correctly and are applied to your degree. This is one thing that I dealt with. I got an associate's degree from my community college in Oregon. At that time, we did not accept the AA degrees at the University of Nevada, Reno. And so I had to take some classes over, and I was kind of a little angry about it because I was like, I've already taken this class. And even though I appealed it, I did not submit a syllabi. I didn't know about the process. No one ever told me what the process was. And so this is one thing that I help students in doing because I realize how difficult and how hard it is and how much money you spend in retaking these courses. Utilize support programs. TRIO is a really good program that we have at the university. They have one now at a lot of the community colleges. They have what's called EOPS in California, which is equal opportunity programs. They have, you know, so really research these programs because they are very helpful for students. And guess what? They give you scholarships. So it gives you the extra support you need, such as advising, tutoring, and financial planning. Additional things to keep in recognition and always know about is knowing your deadlines. I get so frustrated with students that complain about financial problems, but yet they're really late in applying and they miss out on all of our scholarships. And so we have what's called a Nevada guarantee, which if students apply to the university before February 1st and are admitted, they get full tuition paid. And this is for transfer students as well. And so many of the students that qualify for this do not apply in time, do not meet the deadlines. Tribal money, you also have deadlines when you need to do that as well. So just make sure that you know those deadlines, because it's really, really important. And I know it's hard, especially in the middle of a semester, but put it in your phone as a reminder. Hey, make sure you get your FAFSA done October 1st, and make sure you put the University of Nevada, Reno on there. So, because this is really something I see so many students forget to do, and they need help. They need financial help. So I just went to TMCC today, and there was 3 students that still have not applied and probably could have qualified for our Nevada guarantee, which is full tuition. And now they're going to have to come out of pocket with some money because they missed the deadlines. So deadlines. Start a year early. This will allow you in being able to know the deadlines. One thing that I think too has really helped me as a student, and has also helped, I think, even Avery, is work on campus. Work at your community college or university, because when you work there, you get the inside information. You get people that can call somebody to help you, or get you a scholarship, or to get you involved in campus life. So try to work on campus. They work around your schedules. School comes first. It helps in retention. So it's a really good way to get embedded in the institution, and also know the deadlines of different things. Find a mentor and shadow a professional. So even as a PhD student, this has been very hard for me, because there isn't a lot of American Indian faculty on campus. I actually had to go outside of the university to have somebody on my committee. And so, but try to find those mentors, and they don't have to be Native. My academic advisor is my mentor. She's the one that motivates me. She's the one that tells me it's going to be okay. She's the one that helps me in knowing that I can get this done. And without her, I'm not sure I'd be this far in my PhD. I would have quit a long time ago. And so find that mentor, find that professional, even if they're outside of the university or college too. That always helps, because you just need that person that gives you positive insight, positive motivation into what you want to accomplish. When I worked in the center, I would say 70% of the time, students came to me to tell me they were dropping out. And I looked at them and I said, "You're coming to tell me you're dropping out. That's not going to work." And I'd given reasons why it's not going to work and why they should succeed. And at that time, they didn't really want to drop out. They just needed some support. They just needed somebody to tell them, "Hey, it's going to be okay. We're going to get your financial aid back. Or, even if you flunked this course, let's retake it. It's not the end of the world. Let's get a different professor." So there's different things that you can help in order for students to achieve. And students that come and tell you they're going to drop out usually are the ones that just need that extra support, right? Just need that extra, like, "Hey, if I can do it, you can do it." So those are some things that as a transfer student, to think about. Next slide. Avery, oh, there you go. So my dissertation is using a theoretical framework called Funds of Knowledge. And Funds of Knowledge, why I selected it, is constantly, as you saw, all that data and all the challenges, I constantly was reading stuff, how deficit we are, and how everybody thinks that American Indian students are just, they just can't achieve because of these deficits that they have. Well, the Funds of Knowledge theoretical framework actually looks at a student's strength. And guess what? We have a lot of strengths being American Indian, and whether you grew up on an Indian reservation or whether you grow up in urban society or whatever your situation, you have strengths. And I think as American Indian people, the one thing we have is resilience. We have been through so much as Indigenous people. We have been colonized. We have been murdered. We have been told that we can't succeed. We have been told to be oppressed. And we have always overcome that. And we always have to try to overcome that. And I think our resilience, using this to navigate your way through college and navigate your way through education, is a really, really awesome strength that I think we need to embrace more and actually be talked about more. I think the other thing is allow your family, allow your tribal community to be part of your educational journey. So instead of just going to class and then going home, actually bring your family to functions on campus, regardless if they're American Indian, specified, like bring them to, Night of All Nations at the University of Nevada, Reno. Bring them to some of the graduation celebrations to see what you're learning and to see who you're interacting with and to see, hey, how you're learning about the world in a whole different lens, and bring them along that journey. Also give back to your tribal community. So if you're taking let's say you're taking a food and agricultural class and learning about nutrition, why not try to bring that to your nutrition program on your tribal reservations? Build a garden or have a garden that actually gives back to the elders in the tribal community. So bring your family and your tribal communities into your educational experience, because I think in the end, they will appreciate that more. And I think it is a strength that you will have, and you do have, because you know how to interconnect those two. Know that you have a voice. Like I said, 1% of enrollment in higher education across the nation. I know that's not a lot of us, but know that when you do talk, there are people listening. Even though there are some that aren't listening, there's that one person that is going to listen. And you never know who that one person is going to be. Is that one person going to be the president of the university? Is that person going to be a board of regents member? But to have that voice and have that confidence to be able to have, advocate for yourself and your student population, I think that is a great strength that you have. And I think as Indigenous people, we might have a small voice, but boy, is it really, really resilient, and it's very strong. Never believe that you are not college material. So strengths are to look at the imposter syndrome, which means I am an imposter going to college. I shouldn't be here. The stereotype threats of all American Indians are low income, we're alcoholics, we're on drugs, we have disabilities. All of these things, the strength is to prove them wrong. And that's one thing with this PhD. I was once told, Kari, you can't get a PhD. You're not smart enough. And I took that and I was like, who says I'm not smart enough? And so I took that, and even though I still have a little bit of imposter syndrome and I listen to the stereotype threats, that is a strength of mine that, again, going back to resilience, is that no, I'm not gonna settle for that. I'm not gonna settle for somebody thinking that. And that person, if they were still alive today, I would be in their face saying, hey, look at me. I proved you wrong. And so those are strengths that I think we need to build on, is that we need to quit listening to the negative and build on what we have as a positive, right? And build on those strengths that we have, that, hey, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not living, in maybe a shack, and, and so giving you those type of stereotypes that aren't true. They aren't true. And you can be the model for that. Next slide. So an ending thought, I was trying to come up with this great quote, and, very inspirational by a lot of different people. But I started thinking, what is my ending quote? What is something I want to end on? Is that nothing is too hard to try. Embrace those who support you and challenge those who do not. And like I said, use your strengths, because your strengths and your voice and your resilience are what's going to get you through college. It's also going to help you through any transfer process that you go through, because it is hard. Transferring is not an easy thing, especially if you're transferring from an out-of-state school to another out-of-state school. It's never an easy process, but if you embrace the support you get and somewhat challenge, not be abrasive in the challenging, but as long as you can challenge those others that say you cannot accomplishment, I think that goes a long way in once you get that degree. Because let me tell you, when you walk across that stage and you get your little fake diploma, because they do give you a fake one at first, it is the best feeling that you will ever have. Because you know what? No one can take a degree away from you, and no one has done the work to get the degree. You did it all yourself with maybe a little support, but you did do it all yourself. And I think that's something to end with tonight. And I hopefully you will take that to heart and always remember that. And always use me as a support system if you do need someone. I do take care of all transfer students that come into the University of Nevada, Reno, but I do make time for Indigenous causes. And so please always know that I am here for you to help you. And with that, is there any questions that you might have?
Wow, Kari, that was awesome. I liked when you said, never believe you are not college material. Because sometimes I hear that, like people will say that college doesn't necessarily mean the 4-year institution or you're going to, get a PhD. It means you're going to be college or career ready. You're going to be ready for any career that's in your path. And you're going to think, how to best do that. I mean, you think about our Native people way back when, they were constant. That's how they survived. That's how we were resilient. That's how we're still here, is there was a thought process behind all that. So I really enjoyed your presentation, especially thinking about how we can use our strengths, the data that, Dr. Heather Shotton, you shared. Wow. That's, just thinking about, we are 40% compared to the 57%. That means we have to start stepping up, what we're doing as Native people. And for all three of us to be on the screen and is something that was preyed on, and we're preying on our students who are coming up, for our little Coopers and, our little King Dries in the world, who are our little ones that are moving along in the direction and making sure that they see us, So, wow, very inspirational. I mean, I can go on and on. I like the fact that you talked about, know if there is a transfer agreement between your institutions, and taking those classes over. That sucks.
Yeah.
So
tell me about it.
The students that are out there and they're in high school, these are real life things that occur and happen every single day. But if you go in there smart and you know that, if you're going to go to a TCU or a community college and you're going to transfer, these are some of the things to consider. I mean, it's just really common sense 101 stuff that I didn't know. You didn't know. Avery had more probably better experiences because there were people at the university where he attended who were able to kind of, navigate that system with him. So we're hoping that there's going to be more like that, like the Sylvias of the world and the Sandras. And so, yeah, let's get to our questions, Avery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Kari. No, yeah. Yeah, thanks, Kari. A lot of that stuff I didn't even really realize, especially about I guess one question from my side is, where would you be able to find a transfer agreement for students who are wondering?
So they're usually on the university's transfer website. So usually each university or community college, like I might be speaking out of turn here, but Dina, I think, doesn't Haskell have one with KU? They're usually at the community colleges, usually have them on their websites, and so do the universities. And it's really funny that a lot of times students aren't using them, which they should be using them. And I think they just forget about them. They're just trying to, live semester by semester. But if you don't want to lose credits and you want to spend more money and you want to spend more time, then don't follow one. But if there is one, I wish we had more with the University of Nevada, Reno. My dream is to actually have them with the TCUs. So, because we do get some transfers from Haskell, we get some from, different TCUs around the country, and it would be nice to have those in place. So that's on my to-do list, with all the rest of the to-do list things.
Yeah, I think we all have those huge to-do lists. And so for Nevada colleges, at least, is it mainly just with Nevada community colleges and other institutions in Nevada where they have agreements, or is it with some out of state too?
So yeah, it's Board of Regents policy is that we have transfer agreements with all of the community colleges and the universities. So they also have them with UNLV. What's great about the state of Nevada is we have a common course numbering system. And so English 101 at WNC is our English 101 at the university. There's very few times where classes are different. But on the most part, students know what classes to take because it has the same prefix and it has the same code or the same numbering. So, So usually it's pretty easy. It's when you get out-of-state students, from TCUs or something, and you're like, oh no, everything it's transferable, but it comes in as electives. So a basic college composition course that probably maybe, should probably come in as English 101 with us. It'll be assigned an elective until the student can prove otherwise. And that's by having the syllabus. And so it's just really, really hard for our out-of-state transfers to get all those courses approved before school starts. They have to really start almost a semester ahead.
Right. I totally remember all of this working at Haskell. I would help in the registrar's office. It's all coming back to me. Oh yeah, we'd look, and they would have to bring in their little, what that course was and how it was kind of equivalent to what we had at the university.
Yeah.
And I think so. One of the questions we have from Facebook is, what majors or degrees do you most often see high levels of American Indian and Alaska Native students enroll in at the university, at least?
Ooh, good question. And of course that had to come from Sandra.
Yeah.
She probably knows it better than I do. I see a lot of students. What's kind of an issue, I think, right now with the University of Nevada, Reno is we do not have an American Indian Studies program. And so I do think that would be very beneficial. I do see a lot of students coming in the liberal arts, anthropology, criminal justice. Very rarely do I see them going into the sciences. And so I just like to give a shout out to, we do have 2 scholarships with Great Basin College and also the University of Nevada, Reno. They're full paid tuition scholarships for College of Agriculture, Biotechnology, and Natural Resources. And so those are STEM majors, but you can be a teacher through Kapner. You could be a rangeland management degree. There's a whole array. Biochem, that's a pre-med degree. So we do have some scholarships. So please contact me if you are interested in those. It's full paid at Great Basin College and the University of Nevada, Reno. So I just like to give a shout out about that. But that's one thing. I think, the sciences at the university could write some grants or something to help American Indian students go into the STEM fields, because I do see them mostly going into liberal arts, which I'm a liberal art, I'm poli-sci, so I can understand that, right? Policy and procedure, but it would be nice to see more of them go into the sciences.
And Kari, Avery put the flyer on our Annie page, so anybody can go back and scroll and look.
Yeah, so hopefully we have some students that will sign up for that. And I think we do have a couple from UBC too that I know of. So hopefully we do have students.
Good. And we're having a hard time getting students enrolled in GBC, which I think GBC has all online, it's very flexible with non-traditional students. So it's a great way for students to be able to get, their full tuition paid for.
Yep. So if you're at GBC right now, listen to that. And then also, yeah, check out our photos in our Facebook page. I think that's where you'll be able to find that scholarship information. And we have another question from Sandra too. She says, what additional ways can we as a community members better support our American Indian Alaska Native students?
I think as community, right now I feel so guilty because I'm so busy and I want to go to do so much and be part of the Indigenous group at the university. I want to start a Nevada System of Higher Education American Indian Alliance, Faculty Alliance, and it's just like sometimes you just gotta give up some stuff. And I know as community members we do have a lot going on, especially if you work full time. But I think the main thing, especially when I was working in the center, is the community members that came to events and supported the students. That really helped. When we had the powwow, that really helped in bringing a different appreciation, even from non-natives on campus, to show that, hey, this community really needs to help support these students. I also think, if there's policy out there that you can support, I also think that's a great way to help students as well. And then it would be nice to have a mentorship type program that students can be able to reach out to other professionals within the community. So that would be something that, and I know it's hard right now, but being able to be a mentor for students, I think that would be also very helpful. Because again, like I said, students would come to me telling me they're dropping out. They didn't want to drop out of school. They just needed that one person to say, hey, what do you need? Let me help you find that. Let me tell you, this professor said this to you. This isn't true. You can write a paper. You write well, So, and those are things that even happened to me. I once got told that, can't you write better? I was like, isn't that your job to help me? But not all students have that sarcasm or, or able to say that. So those are, I think, the ways as community members, just get involved and attend events and be supportive. Because if you don't, those things are going to go away because nobody's showing up.
Yep, I can totally agree. And I really like how you stated that in your presentation too, about how students would come to you almost like how other people will go to certain mentors or their parents in situations where they are feeling down or like in a crisis situation, and they just kind of throw it out there as like a cry for help. So yeah, that's a really good point, that it's almost like they're just saying, hey, I just need some help. But yeah, that's really important. And then we have another question. This one's from Sanavi, and she says, outside of keeping syllabi during your time at school, what other suggestions would you have for students? And is it more beneficial to persevere in order to get a degree and then transfer? Or yeah, basically what other suggestions would you have?
So I think, and we'll see with my dissertation study how that pans out. I think the other suggestions to be able to for transfer students is to know that it's not going to be easy when you transfer, and because you're going from one type of environment or culture at your current college to a whole different one. And so if you went to a TCU, there are usually support services for you. There's usually faculty that are American Indian. There's usually curriculum that is embedded into every facet of that college. And when you transfer to a predominantly white institution, you don't see that. And you almost feel like you're lost. And so the one thing is to recognize that you are going into that situation, but have the best attitude possible and find ways on trying to change that through your student voice and being able to learn why things aren't happening the way at your previous institution. And so, it's really hard because I've always attended predominantly white institutions. And so that wasn't a big thing for me, but I remember walking on the University of Nevada campus from, being raised in Schurz, Nevada, and attending Mineral County High School, where I just felt lost. None of my classmates went to college. You felt a culture shock, and luckily I had my older sister there, but, students really need to know that, hey, take this as an adventure, and take this as a way that you can actually start something. Like you can start, an advocate group on campus on Indigenous issues. So just be aware that sometimes it's not going to be always the nicest welcoming, but there's things you can do to change that. And I forgot the second question. What was the second? It went away.
Oh, I think it was basically the same, the way you said. I think you answered it well. It's just like, what suggestions would you have, and a little bit more to that. But yeah, you did. That was really good. But yeah, it is. I think it is a really big adventure that, just like any other adventure, when you go somebody else, like you have unexpected problems and stuff's going to come up either way. So I think it's just to be able to prepare your mind before you make that adventure and before you do venture out beyond a TCU or another state college. I think is this is one thing that's important to keep in mind.
Are you using that
no matter
transition?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
I was going to say, no matter where you go, you're going to run into, differences in how you, if you're at a TCU and go to a PWI, or else you are going immediately in there from a rural frontier, type of atmosphere, or else you're in Reno going to UNR, or, Las Vegas going to UNLV. There's always going to be a cultural shock no matter what. So always surround yourself or find that group that you can actually fit into. We heard last week from Jarrett, his experiences, and one of them was clearly that he couldn't find his people. So, he ended up coming back and transferring again. But that's so important, to find your people or find what is, in your realm.
Mm-hmm. And I was lucky when I transferred back. I had my cousins that were in college. I also have my little sister who transferred in. So I had that core group. So it was a lot easier my second time I transferred than when I went the first time, so because I didn't have anybody the first time. And so that's one of the reasons I transferred out. And then coming back, it was, I wasn't part of the NASA or the Native American student group, but I knew about them. We would hang out, so, and I look back and I should have been part of that a little bit more. But I had to work, I had to go to school. And then, just doing my other stuff I was doing, I didn't make time for it. And I should have, looking back, because I think that would have been a very good support system for me, during those difficult times of college. So that was a big failure on my part, but because I do see the benefits of it. I do see how those support networks work so well for students, and they're able to achieve so much more when they have that extra support of each other.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Yeah, thanks, Kari. I think, well, that's the last of our questions that we have. But first, I just want to thank you for bringing your expertise onto Annie. I think everyone is really appreciative of all the info you brought to us today. And like we always say this, but we learn new things every episode. And I think this is a really important episode, especially for transfer students.
For all students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all students too. Like you said, this is an adventure. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's an adventure. I'm on an adventure right now. Just trying to get some policy and different things approved at the university, and it's hard, and you get kind of weak at times. You're like, why am I doing this? Why does it matter? And it matters because I think now I see my son, and I want my son to be able to recognize this and appreciate it, and understand it. And it's not about just me anymore. It's about him being able to be appreciative of Indigenous cultures. And he too is part of the Urington Paiute tribe. He's a member, so that helps too.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a superhero.
He is. Yes, he loves Captain America and Spider-Man, and yeah.
My nephew is the same. When I saw that picture, my nephew walks around with a Spider-Man outfit on.
All the time, yes.
Now
Sounds
we're
like
going
me.
outdoors.
Yeah, it sounds like me right now. All right,
Well,
yeah,
thank you, Kari.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
Thanks
for
again,
having
Kari.
me. I'm sorry I look so tired. I feel tired. I've been doing my dissertation proposal, and I just haven't been able to sleep. So forget how I look, but at least hopefully some of this advice you can take and use it and be able to adapt it to your students or your child or whomever.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate
Yep, I know I learned a lot, so I'm pretty sure everybody else did too. All right, well, thanks, Kari. Have a good night.
Well, take care.
Good night.
And thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. We had another great episode. And if you know any students who are transferring, and honestly, like we just said, any students in general, feel free to send them this video and share it with them. And this is really beneficial. We learned a lot in this episode. And also to tap for next week too, real quick, we're having our financial workshop with the Nevada Money Mentors. And so tune in Thursday at 5 p.m. and we'll see everybody next week. Thank you.
And Avery, I just wanted to remind you, I won't be here next week. I hope everybody, I want to take this time to have you think about your mental, wellness, how you're taking care of yourself mentally and physically, and making sure you're drinking a lot of water and you're eating right. It'll be 21 years I lost my sister to suicide. So I just want to remind those students and those people out there that are listening to really take care of yourself and to love one another, spread kindness in everybody's life.
Yep. Be good relatives, everybody. And
be good relatives. That's a good one.
Have a good rest of your week and happy almost May. Okay. See you later, everybody.